Foremost, I wanted to thank PROJILITY for giving me the opportunity this morning to share our journey with you. Hopefully you guys can learn a few things, a few tips and tricks that will help you drive through your own journey. And Justin, great presentation. Just to kind of respond to your comment about demand and resource forecasting, that is definitely the holy grail. We continue to put the right things in place, but it takes a lot of focus, a lot of discipline, and it is quite a heavy lift. So I agree with you there. Okay. First, are my slides presenting?
They are, yes.
Okay. All right. First, I wanted to start by giving a short background on Geisinger Health System. So we are an integrated health system with $7.1 billion in combined revenues. The fact that we're an integrated health system means that we have, hospitals, clinics, insurance operations, and also a school of medicine. So you can see on the slide, we have 9 hospital campuses. We have 125 clinic sites, and that number just continues to grow. We have almost 24,000 employees, and we have close to 1,700 employed physicians. Now, in our in our insurance operations, we have 550,000 members. We have almost 30,000 contracted providers, and we have over 100 hospitals in our network. As far as our School of Medicine goes, we have a School of Nursing. We have 569 residents, and we have over 1,000 active research projects in motion. This just shows our footprint. We're primarily in, the central and northeast region of Pennsylvania. Over the last 35 years, we have been an innovator in the market. We launched our health plan back in 1985. We opened our children's hospital in 1994. We were one of the first customers of Epic, so we went live on the Epic platform in 1997. Throughout the 2000s, we've launched a number of things like Proven Care. We've had the MyCode Genomics program launched. We have launched a direct-to-employer Center of Excellence program. Some of the participants include Walmart, Lowe's, and McKesson. You'll see in 2017, we acquired the Geisinger Commonwealth School of Medicine. Around 2019, we launched our Steele Institute Healthcare Innovation. And then, one of our more popular programs right now is the 65 Forward Health Centers, where we try and get our population that is 65 or older into the clinic and have kind of a one-stop shop where they can, embark on wellness activities and get the healthcare they need all in one place. This slide shows our strategic priorities, and this really it grounds us as far as which projects we decide to invest in. They all need to align to one of our strategic priorities of managing total health, operational excellence, or access and ease of use. This is another slide that shows kind of our history and the different campuses that we've acquired over the years. Now I'm going to get into really the meat of our Microsoft project journey. One of the things that we like to focus on is making sure that we're leveraging the right tools at the right time so that we can make sure that our future is sustainable. So our journey started way back in June of 2017. That's when we started to really discuss our options for selecting a PPM tool. August of 2017 is when we kicked off our project with our partners, PROJILITY. They had a very structured way that they ran the project, and they really did keep us very disciplined, focused, and on schedule. So as you can see, we went through the design reviews and design sessions. We had a multitude of training opportunities available. And I'll get into that a little bit more, but one of the things we learned from our prior tool rollout was that, adoption maybe wasn't the best because we didn't really focus on training. So this time around, we really had a focus on the training aspect of the tool. As you can see, we went live in December of 2017. So we had, between 900 and 1,000 users that launched on this new platform in December. Through, the next few months, we really tried to stabilize our platform and, make sure everyone was using it appropriately. In October of 2019, we had kind of a reinvigorated push to make sure that everyone was using the tool appropriately, logging their time, managing the projects, and all of that other good stuff. So you can see in 2019, we did offer a number of refresher training classes so that everyone was up to speed, or if we had new people join the organization, it was a good opportunity for them to learn the tool. So what that led up to was in January of 2020, we started to use PWA for IT capacity and resource evaluation. Now, as I said, as I kicked off the presentation, it is a very focused effort and it does require, quite a bit of resource utilization to actually manage this piece of it. And then in April of 2020, we did kick off our portfolio management project. So that's really, kind of setting us up to get into balancing the portfolio, running some what if scenarios so that we can determine trade-offs of, accepting a project into our portfolio or kind of trading out something else of lower priority to work something that is more of an importance to the organization. So we did enable those building blocks, and we are still kind of working through all the logistics of, putting the rubber to the road and utilizing that capability. One thing that the PMO did start to produce, in mid-2020 was the COO and CIO executive dashboards. So we, report out in a number of different forums to both our CIO, our COO, and a number of other C-level players within the organization, so that we do have that full transparency to kind of portray what IT is working on. And as you can see, we are planning our future, so we want to get more into a self-service reporting model. So why did we choose Microsoft Project? I think, the most important step is finding your why, kind of framing out the problem that you want to solve. So what we realized was our CIO had, and our other, executive leaders within IT had a really strong desire to make sure that the work we were doing is very transparent, so that, everyone understands here's what IT is committed to work on in the next, 3, 6, 12 months. Once you start to do that, conversations within the organization from your requesters and business partners, the conversation kind of starts to shift, right? So that we get into more of a, trade-off kind of discussion rather than a discussion around, okay, so why isn't my request worked on yet? We also have an executive leadership team that does have a strong desire to make sure that they're making the right decisions based on the data. So those were the two top reasons why we needed to implement a tool. So why did we select Microsoft Project? Well, one of the things that I kind of alluded to in the beginning was we had a PPM tool prior to Microsoft Project. What we learned was it was not highly adopted. It was not very user-friendly. And just kind of factoring in the fact that we are a Microsoft-driven shop, that was, one of the main reasons that we started to, hedge toward Microsoft Project. Along with that, the user interface is very intuitive, and people find it very easy to use. And, lastly, it does have a large user community so that, we do have support to help us, get through some challenges. So how close are we to solving our original problem? We're almost there. It is definitely a journey. So right now we do have IT PMO portfolio visibility, and we do have professional project managers who are all operating under, standard methodology. The last mile is always the hardest. So what we're trying to work through right now is, how do we make sure that small projects are managed appropriately, and we're not it's not overkill for the intent of managing those small projects. We are using ServiceNow, so we need to figure out a good way to kind of bridge that gap between something that gets entered in ServiceNow and the work and the time that we're putting in to work those tickets, and also the sustain work. So what we learned about our sustain work, we have the resource managers manage those types of projects. And what we saw is if we give them the keys to the kingdom, there's no standardization. So what we had to do was kind of take a step back and help them come up with some standardized tasks so that we can have some meaningful reports come out of those projects. Step 2 is very important. What you want to do is make sure that you are identifying and including the key players that are going to help make you successful. So what we did was we asked ourselves, okay, who are the key decision makers in the organization? Right, so obviously our CIO, our CTO at the time, our finance department was a heavy user of our previous tool, so we needed to make sure that they were engaged so that they can continue their financial reporting and not miss a beat. Of course, our program management office was one of the very key stakeholders, and then our individual project and program managers themselves. The next thing we did was identify some power users. So when you're moving to the Microsoft project tool, you need to make sure that you're identifying the right resource managers, project managers, and also team members, because when you get into the resource utilization, team members are just as important as project managers because they need to make sure that they're entering their time appropriately for the tasks they're working on. And then, of course, we brought in our end user computing team because they're really our system administrators for the tool. The next thing we did was identify our top use cases. So, we had a strong desire to make sure that we were tracking our time. The next step was to make sure that we're doing resource management. Of course, project management was very important, and that leads us into portfolio management and obviously metrics and reporting, because I'm a strong believer that what you report on is really what you focus on. The next step, really what you want to do is step back and think about where your organization is at as far as their maturity level of accepting some of the things that you're about to impose on them or work with them toward. So you don't want to dive right in into the deep end if you're not really ready for that. So what we did, it goes back to who drives decisions. So again, the C-level executive team. We talked through what information they need to make decisions. So the key thing was the strategic alignment. The next thing, we need to look at how big of a role does PMO play in providing guidance to the organization, because our IT department is a little over 900 people. We have probably 200 projects active at any given time in our organization, and clearly we can't have an IT project manager assigned to each and every one. So we need to make sure that we're providing strong guidance so that everyone is still functioning the same, even though they may not be a part of the PMO. The next thing, you really want to make sure that you're realistic in setting your goals. So we knew that our ultimate goals were around work visibility, that transparency piece was key. So that led into making sure our resource management process was tight, and then that can lead into data-driven decisions. And, again, we need to take these things in steps that are manageable. So, our main focus when we first rolled this out was on the time tracking and time management, and then, tracing and managing the resource allocations versus actuals. So what are the achievable goals? In our previous tool, we were mainly just focused on, buckets to track our time. What we wanted to do was kind of shift that focus a little bit and not lose the fact that we're tracking time, but we really wanted to roll out true project management fundamentals. And, the Holy Grail was the forecasted work. Again, like I said, I'm a firm believer in reporting, so that was very important to us. And then, of course, the visibility and prioritization of work. Step 4, you really want to prepare your organization to accept this change. So, you need to step back and say, are we prepared for go live? Do we have the stakeholder support? And if not, how do we get there, right? So again, it goes back to those key stakeholders. So the CIO is really the one driving the need for the work visibility. So, his clear support and messaging was the ultimate key to making sure that our adoption rate was high. Again, finance, they needed to understand the tool. They needed to make sure that they had all of the resources available to them that they had in the prior tool in the future state. So we made sure that was a seamless transition for them. Of course, our program management office, we wanted to make sure that they were going to hit the ground running. So we made sure that they had proper training and that they could also be that support layer on the ground. So, if they were talking with resource managers, they could help guide them in different tips and tricks of how to use the tool. And then the IT department at large, we needed to make sure that they totally understood the importance of tracking their time, giving good estimates, and making sure that the work they were doing was transparent. So what we did to get ready for this was we trained and we trained and we trained. So we had 3 full days of training for every project manager and resource manager. There were multiple sessions so that everyone could make it to one session. We also recorded video clips for the team members so that they understood how to track their time. Step 5 was the exciting time of go live. So when we got to this point, we needed to make sure that we were keeping things in mind, such as, what are we tracking in the project attributes? Obviously, you had to keep in mind, what did we want to report on so that, we can make sure that we were capturing the right things so that we can report on the right things. The other thing that was a key it was a big accomplishment on our end was to standardize the resource roles across the IT organization. So when you have 900 resources and multiple teams and different managers of those resources, getting alignment on, a small manageable set of standard roles was probably one of the bigger accomplishments of the entire project. The other thing that we made sure was to keep it simple. Sticking very close to out-of-the-box functionality is an important thing to us. It helps us, move to new releases on the project on PWA, so that we, don't have to rework everything that we may customize. So sticking to out-of-the-box is a key. Like I mentioned before, PROJILITY really kept us focused in the workshops so that we did keep our project schedule. We made a decision to not go live with any type of workflows or customizations. But again, following the walk, crawl, run methodology, we did later activate the gate review process in an automated flow. The other thing that we had to account for was, what do we do with the projects that are still active and in our prior tool? So we decided to migrate these projects into the new tool, and we did engage PROJILITY for an extra set of hands on that. So our results to date, we are very transparent in our work. We have many reports that show that. We speak in many forums about, how to do that. We are a data-driven decision-making organization. We've realized that, the reports we have, the data we're using are all very important and do help us make good decisions. We keep an eye on our project health metrics so that, we can see when a project is red, how do we get that back on track? And then again, widespread adoption, we are very skilled users within the IT department in Microsoft Project. So what I wanted to show here was just a few of the reports that we're using. So I mentioned that, we're set up to start to use the portfolio balancing and using our drivers to kind of weight projects. So that's what I'm showing on this report here. We use the run, grow, transform methodology to kind of report out the bigger chunks of our work. So you can see, we track pretty much a little bit under the Gartner benchmark for our run category. So that's really the keep the lights on type work. And then you can see, our other, because we're lower on the run, it allows us to focus more on the grow and transform, which is really in line with our innovative mindset here at Geisinger. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight was our executive status report, which is auto-generated. The PMs can fill in minimal information as long as they're keeping their project up to date in the tool. They can generate this report on a weekly or bi-weekly basis and make sure they're sending it out to the right people. So of course, this is an ongoing thing. We're always looking to continuously improve. So we do engage with PROJILITY on the expert care, and really what we focus on there is making sure our administrators are moving in the right direction. We're following best practice. And of course, reporting is really a key place where I like to focus the team. So what are we looking to do next? Of course, the reporting strategy is really our focus at the moment. We want to make sure that, as we get more information, we're appropriately using that information. And again, every time that you have a system where users are entering data, you need to monitor that data to make sure that you're finding the anomalies and correcting them before it becomes a problem. And then, as I kind of mentioned before, we're in the process right now of using the business drivers to kind of guide us into those what-if scenarios so that we can, have better conversations with our users around, what projects should we take on. And as the industry starts to, as the industry is more accepting and using the agile methodology, and of course at Geisinger, we're adopting that as well. So we need to make sure that we're working through how to use our other agile tools effectively with Microsoft Project. So what did we learn throughout our journey? Really, it is a marathon. It is not a sprint. You really want to follow the crawl, walk, run, and don't take on more than you can handle at the moment. So, stick to out-of-box configuration. Keep an eye on and make good decisions around custom fields and custom configuration, because you may think it's a good idea at the time, but you really need to think it through and make sure, you're understanding how it may impact you in the future. Again, training is never done. So I actually have a part-time trainer that works within the PMO so that they can do not only training on our PM methodology, but also on our tool sets, so that everyone is up to speed on using Microsoft Project the most efficient way, and to make sure it's in line with our standards. One of the things that we really think is very useful, and we get good feedback from our constituents, is we hold a monthly user group, and that's really like a lunch and learn session where people will bring their challenges, we'll work through them together, we'll share ideas, if we have any changes or things we're rolling out, we'll use that forum to really get people comfortable with the change. And then we also hold monthly office hours. Again, that's another forum where they can ask questions and work through answers together. The PMO does own the tool. I mean, we have, our end user computing group who is the system administrator, but we really do manage all parts and pieces outside of user access. And then again, I can't say this enough, but what you report on is what you focus on. So really keep that in mind.